Hey everyone, JJ here with a quick tutorial on how to paint HO scale track. This is how I do it. I love how it works. It works very well and it has a great result if you do it right. So anyway, the stuff you'll need is a pair of scissors, a rail cleaning abrasive pad of some sort, a cloth, this is just an old t-shirt, something soft, needle nose pliers, paint thinner, 3/4 inch tape and inch tape, or anything bigger that'll work. But you need a 3/4 inch tape or 1/2 inch tape. If you have that, you're set. But that's not made very much, so 3/4 inch tape will work just fine. Paper towels, and of course your two colors for your ties and your rail. Just a quick tip: Rustoleum Spray paint does not melt Woodland Scenics foam roadbed. This technique works on Kato Unitrack, Atlas, Flex Track, Cork, foam, roadbed, Homeo, so it doesn't matter. It works on everything. But just a quick tip for those who are using Woodland Scenics foam roadbed like I am, Rustoleum Spray paint does not melt the roadbed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first step is you want to go ahead and get any impurities out of the rails. And by impurities I mean any sort of fluff you may have in your rail or plastic. For example, I do a lot of kit building in this area just because of the light from the window back here. But there are screws and stuff that make their ways in between the rails, and anything in between the ties is going to get painted over, and it'll be there for forever. so what you want to do is you want to go ahead and clean up the area around your rails, and also beside your rails as well, because you're going to have tape there, and you want that to stick. You don't want the paint leaking around your layout. Now that isn't inevitable unless you use a lot of tape on the edges and stuff. But inevitably you will get paint somewhere around your layout. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and get your thicker tape, and you want to go ahead and line everything around your track, or your track bed, sorry. This is what you don't want to be painted. This is also just a shield because we're using spray paint. It isn't a perfect science, and you will get paint on your layout if you don't do this. And you're probably going to end up getting on there anyway, but this is just an extra barrier because this area around the track is where the paint is going to be most centered. So yeah, I just want to go ahead and do all of your track, and then we'll move on to step 2. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to get your tie color, whatever color of spray paint you chose for your ties. So this is just going to go completely over the rail. Don't worry about, oh my gosh, the rail's a different color. Don't worry about that. The other color will coat over this, and then we'll clean the top off the rails each time we put a new coat on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I've been shaking this for about, gosh, probably 3 minutes. But you do not want any chance of chunks in this, because then you're kind of SOL. So, anyway, I haven't really found a good, I don't know how to explain it, a good level of farthest away from the tracks without having too much overspray or underspray or too much on one part. So just experiment with it, you'll eventually get it down. I always use a test piece right by where I'm going to be doing, so I can kind of tell, okay, here's the perspective. So anyway, you just want to go ahead and get a good layer on your tracks now. Just a very, very thin coat is all it takes. As you see, we have a little bit of overspray, so that's why I covered the buildings. And you want to get behind your rail just a little bit so there's less to cover up later. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish this section of track, and I'll be back to talk some more. Now what you want to do is you want to clean your track, and you want to do this kind of recent after, just so you don't have it stick. So you want to go ahead and get your paint thinner and your rag and a paper towel. I start out with a paper towel just because sometimes it works, but when you go over rail joints, you will, like right here, you have the chance of getting into You can kind of see that crack there. Right before there. So you do have a chance of snagging this and then getting getting paper towel in there. So what I do is I just usually start with this, and some of it is on there pretty good. Like you can see, that's not coming off. So then what I do is I get a rag, just a thin rag. I think this is actually just a torn up old t-shirt. Dip it just a little bit in the paint there, and you don't want to get too much. But you can see there's a lot on there. You can kind of see my finger through it. You want to get on the edge because you don't want this soaking into the rail. And then you just go ahead and clean your rail pretty good. And then what I do is I come in with a my Woodland Scenics track cleaner. You can also use, I think Walters has a Bright Boy. Any form of abrasive track cleaner. You don't want to use sandpaper or anything that scrapes, because you'll create micro scratches in your rails, and your rails will get dirtier much faster. So then I just come back in with one of these and make sure I get everything off, and then I run a train over it once this is dry, just to make sure everything's good. So I'm going to go ahead and do this the whole track, and then I'll let this paint dry for about 2 to 3 hours, and I'll see you guys back when it's done. Okay, so the paint's done and dry. It's been a few hours, probably a little longer than I usually do, but I decided to mow since I had nothing else to do. Anyway, what you want to do now is you want to get your 3/4 inch masking tape, and you just want to put your tape right up against the, butted up against the edge of the tie plate. So I'm just doing a really short section of time. I would usually do like a 2 3.5 inch or 2 3.5 foot piece of masking tape at a time. For this side, you want to take your masking tape, you want to cut halfway through, about every centimeter to an inch or so. And the tighter the curve, the more close together you want your cuts. And this is just so you can kind of stretch your masking tape around the end of the tie plate. And then you want to make sure it's down nice and good, and then you just push it down. See how that's kind of stretched there? Relieves the stress against tape so it doesn't come up when it gets wet. And then for the middle, you want to cut a small section like this. And since it's 1/4 inch, I can just cut this in half. And then you take the top half. Make sure you got the factory cut top half. And what you do is you just take this and you just put this right up against the tie plate. You don't want any tie showing at all. You'll be able to see streaks in the ties, like the wood streaks from the plastic. You'll be able to see them. And pretty much you don't want to see those. So then you just go ahead and take your other piece here, if I can get off the plywood. And there you go. And now you should only be able to see the tie plate and no tie streaks. Like you can see here, you shouldn't be able to see any of these streaks at all. If you see streaks, you need to go ahead and cover those up. But you should only be able to see the tie plate. I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of this, and then I'll be back to show you how I paint this. Now, when all your track is masked off, you can go ahead and start to paint it. Okay, once you get that shaken up real nice, you want to get another piece of a test piece. You always want to get a test piece close to where you're working. That way you know how much it's spitting out at the moment. So, okay. Now you just want to get a very, very light coat. You do not want to go overboard in this because it will stick up, and that's what you don't want. Make sure you get the back of the rails too. A lot of people forget about that. Just very short bursts, and you want to do that for the entire layout. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll come back. And now you want to go ahead and repeat your process of painting the top of your rail. You want to be really careful this time because you don't want to get the sides or the top of the tie plates. So you want to go ahead and clean the rail pretty good. Get all the paint off because this is about the last time. You can do a second coat, that is optional. Personally, I like the first one because I can still kind of see the darker one in just a little bit. Not super obvious, but areas where I got the paint lighter, it really helps, gives it a contrast because the rail isn't just one color, you know. It's just the main lines are usually lighter. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and clean the rail, and I'll come back and I'll show you the finished product. Now when you're done and the tape is removed, this is what you'll end up with, and as you can see, you have really nice, crisp tie plates. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope this works for your layout. If you do this, I hope it works, and I hope you get some good use out of it. As always, thank you for watching, and I'm going to get back to work.